ERA is the posting process that automates the pre-filling of your EOB or your explanation of benefits using information from the ERA file that you get from your clearinghouse. That ERA file may also be referred to as an 835 file. Even though CareHD will autofill the EOB details, it does not automatically post the EOB that is retrieved from an ERA file. Instead, it presents the information for you to review, make correction, and have final approval and posting. So again, although we autofill, we do not auto-post your EOB. ERA posting is designed as a tool to enhance efficiency and should never replace your established process for ensuring that your EOBs are accurate and posted correctly. The process for getting started with ERA and setup actually begins with your clearinghouse, like Office Ally or TriZetto. First, you must reach out to your clearinghouse and get set up to accept ERA files from your specific payers. In some cases, you may need to contact the payers directly. For detailed questions regarding getting set up with ERA files and which payers allow them or may not allow them, you'll need to consult with your clearinghouse again, because CareHD, we cannot help with that process. There may be payers that don't allow ERA files and you'll still have to be delivered a physical EOB. That's another reason why we say the ERA integration is wonderful, but it shouldn't replace your process for physically posting EOBs, because you still may need to do that process. Once you are set up with your clearinghouse to receive ERA files, you also need to request the SFTP credentials. So this is an SFTP username and password. You specifically have to ask for the SFTP credentials. It is not the same credentials that you use to log in to your Office Ally portal, for example. Once you receive those credentials, you will log in to your live location and go to Settings, Initial Setup, Integrations, Clearinghouse. Here you'll make sure you select your clearinghouse and set up your SFTP credentials. You'll put in the username, the password, and then you'll also see a button on this screen that will say Test SFTP Connection. You want to hit that so we can establish if that is a valid SFTP credentials, and then you'll hit Save. If you receive an error that your SFTP credentials are invalid, please contact your clearinghouse to make sure you have the correct information. But again, make sure to hit Test SFTP Connection. There'll be a button once you have all properties filled out so that we can establish if these are correct credentials. Make sure to also set a sync start date for your ERA files. Once you get this information set up, we'll be able to automatically pull ERA files from your clearinghouse from this sync start date. We cannot retroactively retrieve files, so make sure your sync start date is the day you're setting up your SFTP credentials. If you need to retrieve a past ERA file, you can go into your clearinghouse, manually download that ERA file, and manually upload it into the ERA processing screen, which we'll go over shortly. So again, we cannot, even if I backdate this sync start date, we can't retroactively sync. It's from the moment we turn on ERA and set up the SFTP credentials. From that point moving forward is your sync start date, and that's when we can automatically pull files. CareHD will pull ERA files from your clearinghouse about once an hour. So within an hour of an ERA file hitting your clearinghouse, it should sync into CareHD. So just keep in mind, it's not immediate necessarily. So it doesn't mean as soon as it hit your clearinghouse, it syncs into CareHD. It's within that hour processing pace that we will sync files. To begin managing your ERA files, we need to navigate to the insurance dashboard. And you get to that via the insurance tab. You'll only see this tab if you have insurance permissions on your user. This tab provides us access to all insurance-related tasks, including creating claims, posting EOBs, and processing ERA files. Again, only users that have insurance permissions will be able to access this dashboard. The insurance dashboard has several key sections. Over here on the right is your visual accounts receivable This section displays a breakdown of your unsettled services that are on various insurance-related cases. This top section is your pending EOBs. This includes EOBs that are saved as a draft or awaiting review and finalization to post. Down here, you have your failed ERAs. This section lists ERA files with errors that must be addressed before being able to be processed. Both of these sections require action from your team. Because again, we autofill, we don't auto-post anything. So both of these sections are action items. Earlier, I mentioned if you need to manually upload an ERA, you can do so by using this button here. So let's go through the process of retrieving an ERA file. As I mentioned earlier, we sync on about a once an hour cadence. So we look at your clearinghouse, grab any ERA file, and we review it for any reason codes. If that ERA file passes, there are no reason codes detected, then that ERA file will end up here in your pending EOBs. Your pending EOBs comprise both of ERA files that have passed or manual EOBs that you have started and saved as a draft. Both options require you to finish reviewing and posting the EOB. We can see here, this is an example of an ERA file that passed and there were no reason codes detected. I can see here that it's an ERA file because there is a downloadable file attached to this line item. Let's say, for example, with this EOB, I had a physical EOB and an ERA file, and I just went ahead and physically posted that EOB manually. Well, we still retrieved the ERA file, but you've already posted the EOB. So you could just manually mark it as entered so that this line item is cleared. Only hit this if you have manually posted the EOB. But we're going to go back to our example that this is an ERA file that has not been posted. You have to mark review and post EOB. As again, we've said we automatically fill, we don't automatically post. When you click on review and post, it'll take you to your EOB posting screen. This is the same EOB posting screen that you're used to when you manually post EOBs. We'll pull the payer name, the dates of service range, we'll set the payment type. This does default to insurance check, so if it is another payment type, please make sure to adjust this field. We will pull the check number, the check date. You will have to fill out the memo for whatever you would like that to be. And we pull the check amount. We also pull the information from the ERA file and pre-fill it into your EOB posting screen. This is what requires your review. Over here on the left-hand side, we can see that only one patient was included on this ERA. If there were multiple patients, they would be listed here. I could toggle in between my patients by clicking on their name or using the quick filter bar. I'm going to use this as an example to show you what it's like when you have many patients listed over here on the left-hand side and how I can toggle in between my patients. So the information that is pulled from the ERA file will post onto each patient's individual information, and then once you hit finalized, then that EOB is finalized and will go on the patient's ledger. I can see here on the data service that there was a $4 payment pulled from the ERA for the insurance company and that there was a $30 copay assigned to the patient. On this service, there's a $13 payment and nothing else was established on the ERA file. So we just want you to review this information and make sure that it is correct. If everything is correct, then you will hit finalize and that will post the EOB. All the information on this EOB that was retrieved from the ERA file will go onto the patient's ledger, and your collections will also now reflect this insurance payment. This summary button will show you every patient listed on the EOB in a scrolling form. Mark as incorrect should only be used if you want to flag on the back end for us that something was not allocated correctly on the EOB. Maybe something went to patient responsibility when it should have been a copay. If you mark something as incorrect by clicking this button, please be as specific as you can about the reason. Again, this is just for our back end so that we can constantly be monitoring our reason codes and their behaviors. If you mark an EOB as incorrect, we ask that you make the changes necessary on the EOB posting screen and finish processing that EOB. This should not be used to indicate something was incorrect and you're waiting for us to fix something. This should only be used to flag an incident for us on the back end, but you need to move forward with processing the EOB. I'm going to go over in a minute about how to do some reason code mapping, but again, you can correct anything on this screen and finish processing your EOB. The Save button will allow you to save this EOB as a draft. If I save an EOB as a draft, whether I'm manually posting the EOB or I'm reviewing an ERA file, this EOB will live in that pending EOB section at the top of our insurance dashboard, but nothing will be processed or finalized in CareHD until the EOB is finalized. So you technically have not posted anything if you've saved it as a draft. You've only finalized and posted the EOB once you hit this green finalize button. When we are retrieving ERA file, it can pass our mapping process, that's what we just went over, or it could fail our mapping process. Failed ERAs appear when the system encounters an unmapped reason code, incorrect data, or other errors. So common issues could include mismatched patient names or payer data. We do default to failed ERAs because, again, these are action items we need you to see and take care of immediately. Processed ERAs are ERAs that have been processed but have either passed validation or live under the failed ERA tab. I can click on the ERA file if I would like to download it. To see what error occurred or why the ERA is in the failed ERA section, you first have to click Attempt Reprocess ERA. You have to click this to expose the rejection reasons. In this example, it's saying they're unable to find a matching patient name or patient insurance alias for this patient's name. The name pulling here is coming directly from the ERA file from the payer. So to set up an alias, all you have to do is find that patient name in ChiroHD. All this is doing is establishing that anytime an ERA from the payer comes in for the patient that you select here, for the ChiroHD patient, you may see this name also associated with that patient. So we just want you to map them and allow it to pass. So it's creating an insurance alias for the ERA mapping process. Now, if you have the name just completely incorrect in ChiroHD, then you need to correct the name. But sometimes it could be something simple like a dash missing, or maybe the last name is hyphenated and the payer doesn't have it hyphenated. It could be small things like that. But it takes your knowledge to know, do you need to correct the name in ChiroHD, or do we need to simply map an alias so that anytime an ERA file comes in for this ChiroHD patient, it may look like this name in the ERA file. You'll be able to see that a patient has an insurance alias set up if you go to their insurance case in their insurance coverage tab. So if I'm in the insurance case and I go to the insurance/coverage tab, here at the bottom, below where you set the policy information, you can see that the patient has an insurance alias set up. So if you need to delete an alias, if you need to add another one, or the case may be, you can navigate to the patient's case to see if they have an insurance alias. Once I create that insurance alias, I would need to hit Attempt to Reprocess ERA again so that it can do another check and either move that ERA up into pending or expose another error. You may also have error messages show here as to why that ERA was unable to be processed. I want to go through another live troubleshooting option for when you have a failed ERA. We just went over insurance alias, but what if I have an error that says it's unable to match a service or a data service? What do? So I'm first going to hit Attempt to Reprocess ERA. That way it reveals my exact error. And it says service not found with matching data service for Mickey Mouse on 10/30/24. So what does this mean? This means that what was billed to insurance and processed and an ERA returned doesn't match now the CareHD ledger. So how do I troubleshoot this? I can click on the ERA file and it will open up as a zip file. I'm going to open it up, and you have two different files that we retrieve. We retrieve the 835 file and the text file. I'm going to click on the text file so that I can read the ERA better. So I'm going to scroll in the file or search the file and look for my patient's name. And here I see two services listed on 1030, a 98941 and a 97012. So now I need to go to their CareHD ledger and see what does not match. If I go to this patient's ledger in CareHD, so I'm going to click on Transactions, Ledger. I want to make sure I'm on the insurance case, and I'm going to scroll to that data service. So it's at 103024. So on 1030, I see that adjustment code. Okay, well on the ERA file, there was that second service that was actually billed. So if I click Show Voided Items, and I go back to 1030, I can see that 97012 was voided out. So that tells me it was voided after it was billed. I can also see this information if I go to the Insurance History tab and I scroll to 1030. What is in red are items that have been voided. So this patient's ledger in CareHD needs to be corrected because what was billed out now no longer matches CareHD. In this situation, that service was voided. There may be a situation where the office has sent a bill to insurance and moved the service to cash. We have prevented that from happening moving forward. That way, your ERAs will have to match your CareHD ledger. So if you have an error that says service not found with matching data service, you want to open up that ERA text file to see what is showing on the ERA. What is it saying is supposed to be there? And then compare that to the CareHD ledger and see what was voided or moved. And then you need to correct the CareHD ledger because it was billed out and now you need to match to the ERA. Once you correct the CareHD ledger, then you would come back and click Attempt to Reprocess ERA so that it rechecks the ERA versus CareHD all over again. Another common reason that an ERA file may fail is due to a reason code that is not mapped. We have scanned hundreds upon hundreds of ERA files and composed an extensive list of reason code behaviors and mapping to accommodate majority of the ERA files. But there might be some that do not have a reason code mapped. If that is the case, you will need to create a custom reason code behavior. So a file will remain in failed ERAs until all corrections are made. Unmapped reason codes can be addressed by creating custom mappings, like I said, and I'm about to go into that process. But let's say, for example, you are in a time crunch and you don't want to go set up a reason code behavior to correct the mapping. You can manually post your EOB by going to Process EOB and posting the EOB manually and get it into CareHD. If you do that though, you need to go back to your insurance dashboard and mark it as manually entered. That will remove this line item so that you don't have this ERA to navigate because you decided to move forward with manually posting it. So if you want a failed ERA to leave this failed section, you need to correct the errors that are being exposed or manually post the EOB. Let's say it's a reason code behavior issue. Let's go into that process. To set up custom reason code behaviors, that does require you to navigate back to the system level dashboard. So you do have to have system level admin permissions on your user to be able to access that mapping. You can click on this green box in the top right hand corner to get back to your system level dashboard. From here, you're going to click on the Insurance tab, Reason Code Behaviors. Up here, we've established the 5 categories that the reason codes have fell under. Let's go to contractual obligation as an example. From the ERA files that we have scanned and mapped, we have set up the various reason code numbers and the behaviors that were established on the ERA. So reason code number 3 maps to a write-off. If I go to patient responsibility, we have seen that reason code 35 maps to other patient amount, or 197 maps to rejection. So we have contractual obligation, patient responsibility, correction or reversal, other adjustment, payer indicated deductions. If you receive an ERA that has a reason code that does not align with one of our mappings or is not mapped in general, you will need to create a custom reason code behavior. This will allow you to map your ERA files as desired and remove them from the failed ERA section so that they pass validation every time. To set up a reason code behavior, you're going to click on Create Behavior. The group code defaults to the tab that I was on, but I can select any of the other categories. Reason code, you will add the number and what the behavior is. Does that map to a coinsurance amount? Does that map to other patient amount? Or is it a rejection? If it is a rejection, then make sure to establish the action. Do you want to leave that line item as insurance responsibility and it just be marked as denied? Or do you want to mark it as denied and set that full amount to patient responsibility? If I have set up a custom reason code behavior, those will live under this custom behaviors tab. So again, the custom reason code behaviors allow you to correct mapping on your ERA files so that you can move forward with processing ERAs. So if there is a reason code that is not mapped correctly or not mapped at all, you do not need to wait on us to establish that mapping. You are able to set up your custom reason code behavior and move forward with that ERA file. Once I've set up the custom reason code behavior, I do need to go back to my insurance dashboard to finish processing the ERAs that did not map. Any custom reason code that you set up will be the default mapping for any office under your system dashboard. So if you have multiple locations, any custom reason code behavior will apply to all your locations and it applies across all payers. Once I set those custom reason code behaviors, I will need to go back to my insurance dashboard and then go down to my failed ERA section and click attempt to reprocess ERA. Again, this does a sweep of that ERA, look for those custom reason code behaviors, look for insurance aliases, look for other corrections in CareHD, and then move it up to your pending EOBs once it's passed. So again, keep in mind, the pending EOBs and the ERA section are action items for your office. Nothing has been posted in CareHD yet until you take care of both of these sections. Yes, ERA posting streamlines the management and posting of your EOBs, but it still relies on your expertise to ensure accuracy. So our ERA integration combines the function of automation and manual review to make sure that you are efficiently and effectively posting ERAs in CareHD.